in my business, we have to look at longer term trends. And this dust up between China and Japan, it's happened before. It'll happen again in the future. It's happening now. It's not simply a consumer boycott of Japanese tourism. It's also largely because China has the leverage with quite a number of state-owned airlines, state-owned travel agencies. They can cut off the supply of tourists to Japan relatively easier than other countries can, and they have done so. But you know, as any observer of China-Taiwan relations would tell you, as relations between any neighbors, Thailand and Cambodia, China and Japan, it will eventually have to pass and things will get back to normal. How long that would take, I think it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But I mean, your point is well taken that these sorts of things have happened before between these two countries, right? For yourself, historically, what's been the hedge? What do you do in situations like this, business-wise?
You hunker down. You do whatever you can. I mean, for example, the sense I have is that Chinese tourists as a whole, or the Chinese people and the Japanese people, remain as they have been in the past. They share a common cultural heritage that goes back thousands of years. Chinese tourists really like going to Japan to shop in Japan. They like everything about Japanese tourism, and that's why you see such a great increase in Chinese tourism to Japan. At the same time, the historical realities is that the Chinese people and the Japanese people also have different versions of what happened 50, 60, 70 years ago. And that remains still a tension between the peoples of both countries. Their version of history is quite different. So there will be underlying tensions, but this will go back to normal. And in the meantime, all we can do is try to encourage FITs to continue to travel. And it's not any different than any other crisis that happens in the hospitality industry when demand comes down, whether it's due to this kind of TIF, or it's due to a tsunami, or due to other natural disasters. The whole point about all this is that it just reminds all of us in this industry that resilience is so critical.
Yeah, Mon?
KP, you hit upon a point that I've been hearing about as well, and that is these flight cancellations that we are seeing from China to Japan. Maybe not a result of people phoning up and saying, hey, I'm canceling because I'm being told to, or I don't want to go anymore, but because the airlines are canceling the flights. They cannot go. Their plane has been canceled. But I want to add on to what you just said, and that was, you know, we see other geopolitical issues result in the region. One thing that strikes me different about this is that some watchers saying, look, this is really China wielding the power of its outbound tourism dollar as a weapon here. If someone says something that doesn't sit right with it. What do you say to that as someone who has hotels all around the region?
I would say to that that China is taking the example of others elsewhere, I don't need to name, who weaponized everything else in sight. So that sets a great example to encourage any government which has got leverage over any mechanism to weaponize it. So China is just following a well-established example set by the US administration to weaponize anything within sight. And they've learned a lesson there. So they're weaponizing travel and tourism, just as others have weaponized tourism to say that certain tourists from certain Arabic countries should not be welcome to the US. So yes, China has weaponized travel, but so what's new? They're just doing what the American government has been doing for the last 2 years.
One more question on China, and this is really about the outbound travel. So as we continue to see more people leaving China and heading regionally, that's been a very slow ramp up for those, especially in the tourism industry. But have you seen that soften? Anything for your business, for your hotels within China? Is the inbound travel into China making up for everybody who's now taking those international trips?
No, the thing that's happened is that in the last quite number of years, travel within China, within all our hotels and all hotels and other people's hotels too, has been almost 90% domestic tourism. And people didn't really worry that much about it. The government didn't worry that much about it because domestic tourism was still quite strong. Obviously, domestic tourism has gone down quite a lot. And you can see that the Chinese government has responded by increasing the number of visa-free countries that can come in to China, particularly from Europe. We are taking advantage of that. There is now increased European interest for inbound tourism into China, and we're trying to leverage that as much as we can. But in the overall scheme of things, it's still quite small, but it's a beginning. So perhaps, for example, where international inbound travel to China may be constituted 5% of total occupancy across hotels in China, maybe may go up to 7-8%, but it's not going to be extremely significant in the overall order of things. But as a new trend, it is encouraging, and it's something the Chinese hospitality industry really needs, to have more international tourists, not just because of revenue needs, but also because the whole idea of hospitality and tourism is to have more peoples from different countries intermix and to have the character of people exchanging, ideas and experiences with each other rather than just experiencing 100% domestic tourism.
Well, I was taking a look at your results, your earnings results for the first half of this year. Really strong. Revenue up, operating profit up, double digits here. So where are you really seeing the momentum these days? Is it through the many new hotels that have been opening, or is there a certain region that's really strong for Banyan Group right now?
Well, we have three pillars of growth, I suppose. One would be in the management fees we get from hotels. We are, as with the new Mandai resort opening, we will have achieved 100 hotels, which is a drop in the bucket for the big groups, which for us is quite a big thing to now have 100 hotels in our stables. That's growing very well. Our owned hotels are also doing very well. And we have one other component that's not that much talked about, and that's property sales. We have a very large land bank in Phuket, and property sales in Phuket have just been booming. So when all three pillars are growing, it of course helps the group as a whole.
And this is the branded residence. So some people saying this would be somewhat of a trend, but the data does not show that at all. Branded residence is still going really strong. I understand you also have one in the Middle East. I'm wondering if you can tell us how that's going.
Well, we have several hotels in the Middle East, including a newly opened one, Banyan, Dubai. But we've also got branded residences in the Middle East, in the Americas, in China, in Thailand. In fact, we're particularly strong in branded residences. As you can imagine, in terms of our size, in terms of global hotel groups, we rank way, way down, down the ladder because we're very tiny compared to the other big global companies like Marriott, Four Seasons, IHG, and so on. But in terms of branded residences, for the last 3-4 years, we have actually been number 4 in the whole world, and we're the largest in Asia. We have more branded residences coming up in Asia than any other brand in the world, including the big guys. So in that sense, yes, you're correct. Branded residences are the driver in the last few years of our growth, and it will continue to grow. And globally, branded residences are slated to grow faster than pure hotel room increases around the world.
And KP, you mentioned the big guys, and you are one of the few independent companies really still making a go and growing. We know the 100th hotel, which I want to ask you about in a minute. But as an independent company in the hospitality space, we know the consolidation continues to happen. Do you field a lot of calls from the so-called big guys to come and join teams, join forces?
Well, luckily, we get unsolicited calls, which is quite good. I don't need to name my dear friends in the industry who, over the last 30 years, started up with us at the same time, developed global brand names in terms of luxury hospitality. And today, quite honestly, we're the last guys standing independent. All the rest of them have gone. Some have gone by happy mergers and acquisitions by the big brands. Most have gone because they had to go. They owed too much money to the banks. They were near bankruptcy because of so many disasters happening, or they didn't focus on the numbers, but focused purely on the romance of their properties and so on. So we're the last guy standing, and we're determined to be independent. So we've got a lot of unsolicited calls to basically have the big guys acquire us. It's not very expensive from their point of view, but because it's pretty well known now to people in the industry that we are very, very determined to remain independent. So we've had all kinds of other interesting discussions about collaboration, which would be short of us losing our independence. We have a relationship with Accor. We're looking at other relationships with other groups. And I think one good thing about the new world is that it's not a zero-sum game. It's no longer one of either you're acquired by the big guys or you are left standing trying to survive. The companies like us in the world, which have established that we can remain independent, we're financially strong to do so, are also looking for partnerships. And we also provide attractions to the big guys too. We provide experiences and a sense of being smaller, which brings with it different type of feeling than what you can get in a hotel chain that has got 10,000, 15,000 hotels compared to our 100 hotels. So I think there's a lot of room for synergies, and we're exploring these synergies.
Well, one place that you've got the lock is Mandai here in Singapore. So this, your 100th hotel, correct? And this is the first hotel for Banyan Group where you're headquartered, Singapore. So tell me, what took so long and how is the hotel going?
Well, what took so long was partly because it is Singapore. So we felt the pressure that anything we do in Singapore has got to be iconic. Now, until this project came along, the only thing you could do in Singapore that we thought would be suitable for a banyan tree brand, not necessarily our other brands, would have been somewhere really pretty exclusive in Singapore, along Orchard Road, down to Shenton Way, etc., Marina Bay Sands, and so on. And that's not easy. There haven't been a lot of new hotels opening there in the last few years, except for the casinos and so on. So we've been, over the last 20 years, offered quite a number of what would be called secondary, or secondary still prime, but secondary prime locations. And while we could have done our other brands there, we felt it was not suitable for Banyan Tree. And following our kind of approach to things, in the same exact way that when we went into China, we did not choose to go into Shanghai or Beijing, but we chose this really little known place called Lijiang, but which has now become really very well known for its ecotourism, its cultural tourism, and so on. When the opportunity came for us to be associated with Mandai Wildlife Group, we thought it was a great opportunity. It's a little off the beaten track, but not that far off. But the Mandai Wildlife Parks, and there are now more of them than ever before, are truly iconic of Singapore. They attract more tourists coming to Singapore than any other location. And they're very ecologically responsible. They promote sustainable tourism. They share the very same values as we do. And so we thought it was a great opportunity, and we think it was a completely correct decision, because although it's a little bit isolated from downtown Singapore, it has become quite iconic of what our brand stands for, and it has made a much bigger PR splash for us as a single hotel coming into Singapore than if we had just done a hotel somewhere else within the city. So I think it symbolizes our attitudes towards growth. It's more important to choose a location which is going to be iconic. Japan is another example. We are now doing quite a number of hotels in Japan, but the first one that we opened, first three that we opened, were all in Kyoto. And the banyan tree is next to the world famous Kiyomitsu Temple in Kyoto. So we want to have every single hotel that we open in a place which is important to us to be iconic.